All right, let's talk about finance. Now, I know that word can sound complicated, maybe even a little boring, but today we're going to crack open 5 huge ideas from that world, and we're going to make them so simple, you'll wonder why no one ever explained it this way before. But before we dive in, let me ask you this. If you hear a company made a massive profit, does that automatically mean it's doing great? That it's totally safe and successful? You might think so, but the real answer, well, it's not quite that simple. Okay, here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle why profit and cash are two totally different things. Then we'll get into the stories a business tells with its numbers. After that, we'll uncover why every company kinda has two different price tags. Then we'll explore how to grow a business. And finally, we'll figure out why having money right now is always better than later. First up, let's bust the biggest myth in all of business. The idea that profit is the same thing as having cash in the bank. And to do that, let's follow the story of a super smart inventor who, on paper, is doing great, but in reality, is in some serious trouble. So here's the absolute core of it. Profit, that's what you've earned on paper. It's like your report card says you got an A+. Awesome, right? But cash is the actual money in your pocket you can use to go buy some ice cream to celebrate that A+. One is a number on a page, the other is what you can actually spend. So let's get back to our inventor. Imagine you pay your supplier $8,000 in cash, real money, gone from your account, to make 100 of your cool new gadgets. Then a huge store buys half of them for $5,000. Amazing! But here's the catch. They tell you they'll pay you in 30 days. Okay, so let's look at the report card. You sold stuff for $5,000 that only cost you $4,000 to make for that batch. That's a $1,000 profit. On paper, you're a genius. You're making money. But hold on, let's check your wallet. You spent $8,000 of real cash, and so far you've gotten $0 back. Nothing. Your actual cash flow is negative $8,000. Yeah, ouch. And this, right here, is the lesson. You can be wildly profitable on paper and still go completely bankrupt because you don't have the actual cash to pay your rent or your employees. In the real world, cash is king. It's the oxygen a business needs to survive. All right, on to our next big idea. Every business tells a story with its finances, and they use 3 special reports to do it. The best way to think about them? It's like comparing a photo album to a home movie. These are the 3 main chapters of the story. You've got the balance sheet, which shows what a company owns and what it owes. Then there's the income statement, which tells you if they made a profit. And finally, the cash flow statement, which, as you can probably guess, just follows the cash. And this is where the photo album analogy just makes so much sense. The balance sheet, it's a single snapshot, a still photo taken at one specific moment. But the income and cash flow statements, those are the movies. They show you everything that happened, all the action, over a whole period of time, like a year. So what is a company actually worth? You'd think there'd be one simple answer, but nope. Turns out there are 2 completely different prices for every company, and it all comes down to whether you're looking at the past or betting on the future. You know, it's kind of like driving a car. The book value is what you see in the rearview mirror. It's the history, the numbers from the past, what's already on the books. But market value, that's what you see through the windshield. It's all about where people think the company is going. And the difference between the rearview mirror and the windshield can be gigantic. Just look at Apple back in 2019. Its book value, its on-paper history, was about $22 a share. But what were people actually paying for it? Almost $200. That huge gap is what happens when people believe in your future. Okay, so how does a company make more money? If you just watch the news, you'd think there's only one way. Cut costs, lay people off, shrink everything down. But that's such a tiny, tiny part of the actual story. In reality, there are tons of ways to grow. You could just raise your prices, or sell more stuff, or focus on selling more of your most profitable items. You could get more efficient, find cheaper suppliers, or, and get this, because it's my favorite, you can actually grow by spending more money on things like research or marketing to invent the next big thing. And that brings us to our last big idea, and it's all about time. Specifically, why $100 in your hand right now is way better than $100 a year from now. I mean, it's a total no-brainer, right? If I offered you that choice, you'd take the money today, every single time. Why? Well, who knows what happens in a year? Plus, you could take that $100 and invest it and maybe turn it into more. Well, that gut feeling, that simple preference for having money now, that's actually one of the most powerful ideas in all of finance. It's called the time value of money. Money you have today is worth more because it has potential. So, what would it take for you to wait a year for that $100? What if I offered you an extra $5 to wait? If you say yes to that, then for you, $100 today is worth the same as $105 a year from now. See what we did there? That extra $5, that's the price of waiting. It's what you demand in exchange for your time and the risk. And that is exactly how the entire world of banking and investing thinks about everything. They're always putting a price on time. So let's do a lightning fast recap. Number 1, profit is not cash. Number 2, business reports are like photos versus movies. 3, a company has 2 prices, one for the past, one for the future. 4, There are lots of ways to grow, not just cutting. And 5, money today is always better than money tomorrow. And that leaves us with one last question to think about, a more personal one. If the world of finance has a whole system for calculating the value of money over time, how do you calculate the value of your own time? What is 1 hour of your life, right now, today, truly worth to you? Something to chew on.